Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode I Lost My Show Notes. There it is. 234 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording on June 3rd, 2020. As always, I'm your host. My name is Andrew. Joining me tonight are Benny and Gavin.
And we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, especially since tonight is an all feedback show. Well, an all feedback plus, that RCMP. But whatever, we'll get to that later. So please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Or you can Facebook us or send us something on the gram, whatever. We'll check those at some point. Version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes and some other places.
We need your help. To support our show, visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. The more you pledge, the better the rewards are. Show you're not a communist and buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and follow the link to the right.
All right, it's time for my favorite segment. That's called What Are We Drinking? It's where I ask what you're drinking. I'm going to start with Gavin. Gavin, what are you drinking?
Since I still have a little Crown Black left, I'm drinking Crown Black and Coke Zero, which I have dubbed the Black Pill.
Appropriate. Benny, what are you drinking?
The Corona, again. Not on sale anymore, but I still had some in stock.
Good man. Buy it cheap, stack it deep.
Yep. Past Benny was looking out for future Benny. That's what that is.
All the time.
Somebody's got to. Let's so listener feedback, also special mail from that RCMP, because we know they listen. Also, shout out to the guys at CSIS who don't write in, but I know you're listening.
Please contribute. We really do like hearing from our government organizations.
Yeah. Or at least could you quit hogging all the bandwidth? Or at least toss us a couple of shekels so that we can all afford more internet so that we deliver a clear message to both you and our other listeners.
Right. We know you do have something in the budget, probably.
Yeah.
We've got new Patreon Patriots. I'm not sure what I feel like there's some alliteration to be had, but I haven't settled on a.
Yeah.
So if you're Andrew D, the Albertan, who I spelled wrong in the show notes, not the Alberta, although how cool would it be to be the Alberta? I'm Jason Kenny.
Yeah.
The Albertan, frequent Monday night listener, and Emily W., who we shoot guns with from time to time. Thank you to everyone for becoming a Patreon recently. I appreciate your $1
Yeah.
Oh, the Albertan is actually on the internet tonight, and he says that we've heard good things from the Alberta government today. And I think this is in reference to Jason Kenny saying that he is going to decide to fight the bordering council at the provincial level.
Toss some money the CCFR's way, I believe.
Nice.
Wait, him personally or the entire province?
I don't know, but I believe there was some financial assistance going towards that lawsuit from him, whether it's him personally or what. I don't know. I haven't really had a chance to look into it, but yeah, they stepped up big time, which is awesome.
That's good news.
Yeah. We may all be broadcasting from Alberta shortly if this keeps up.
Dear Jason Kenny, write me. I have questions. I have a business. There are tax consequences. How many people do I need to employ in Alberta outside of the oil patch to get a tax break? That's really what I need to know.
Yeah, and will you cover our moving expenses to join your wonderful province?
I mean, I'm on board with that. Alberta's nice. I'm going to go spend some time in Alberta later this year for reasons.
Yeah.
Let's do listener feedback. So, special listener feedback show plus feedback from our favorite mounted police force. We're going to start with emails. Got an email from King. The subject is very creative. It's feedback. Hey guys, just catching up. Hey guys, just catching up on your podcast and on episode 226. In reference to your modernized FAL, you'd be thinking of the DSA SA-58, which is a modernized FAL with rails and smoother system from what I gather. Love the show. I'm really pissed about the ban. Hope the CCFR lawsuit runs through. I don't specifically know. I know that I made the comment about a modernized FAL. I don't specifically know about the DSSA 58, but I mean, modern FAL is modern FAL. Daddy wants a battle rifle in a man's caliber. So,
Well,
Isn't 30-06 bigger than 308?
yes.
longer, but it's not really the length so much as the girth that matters.
I see.
It's got a little bit more oomph behind it.
It could have more oomph. It's also a longer operating system, and I mean, I really just want a battle rifle in a battle rifle caliber, and I feel like 308 is satisfactory.
Absolutely.
I would also take some quality European calibers like 6.5. Is it 6.5 Swiss?
Swede?
7.5 Swiss? Yeah, Swede. 6.5 Swede. That's a solid caliber, right? The Car 31's chambered in that.
Yes, I think so.
There are certainly continental options, but I'm thinking like 7.62 by 5.1 sort of like battle rifles.
Yeah.
The one thing that I have heard about DSA arms, I don't even know if we can get DSA. I suppose we can't because they're FALs and they're prohibited. We probably can't even get any of their rifles in Canada. I don't know if they make other rifles, but I have heard of DSA having quality control issues. So,
isn't there something that looks like a FAL that's available non-restricted?
I mean, the Swiss Arms was kind of in that category, but that's not a thing anymore.
I feel like I've seen.
So was that like Argentinian gun? There was like an Argentinian battle rifle that Tactical Imports was selling for a while.
So because I keep seeing I kept seeing something on CGN that looked like a FAL to me, who's the untrained eye. So I just assumed there was something out there that was similar and was allowed.
Well,
I mean, I think there's a couple that kind of fall into that sort of style, but yeah.
I would like a FAL. And also, if the Albertan is offering to take me shooting, I don't shoot silhouette, but I am willing to take it up. So,
yeah.
I have your contact.
Depending on what the silhouettes are.
I'm going to Calgary for reasons, or like that area, southern-ish Alberta. I mean, although I guess if you live in Alberta, probably anything south of Edmonton is considered southern Alberta. So we can talk. We also have an email from Better Andrew.
Yeah, very important.
Subject, major correction needed. So we're off to a good start. Hey guys, I just listened to episode 227 where you were discussing gun bans. You guys incorrectly listed the website where you find a plethora of good information as andrew.biz. The correct website is actually betterandrew.biz. Don't make me buy another domain. Better Andrew. P.S. Thank you for the birthday wishes. You're welcome. Happy, really belated birthday at this point, buddy.
Yeah.
Welcome to adulthood. I'm glad you can finally buy beer.
Yeah. But yeah, like unlike a lot of other media outlets, we've decided we're media.
Entertainers.
Right? Yeah, entertainment media. We will issue retractions when we make mistakes. So yes,
we won't hide it on page 7.
Yeah.
If you tried to go to andar.biz and it didn't
we're very sorry.
Then I am very sorry.
Yeah. Mea culpa
you should visit
and all that stuff,
betterandrew.biz. Who has the .biz? Seriously, who uses .biz? .biz.
Only the best websites. So
make sure that you turn your sound all the way up.
Yeah.
I have to be in the office.
Visit betterandrew.biz.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally like in a public setting, like a library or your communal space in your office.
Yeah.
Share that goodness.
Yeah. For realsies.
I really don't understand the listener feedback. POTUS Robin of Locksley, Flotus Smart and Foxy, and a family stock with Moxie has the media in shock because Trump drops the hydroxy. I don't... Your listener feedback is lacking, but rhymes well.
Yeah. Also, this is Canadian Patriot podcast.
So
What
if you can
what
make,
show notes are
if
you
you can
guys
make-
reading?
I'm
Well, it's a live comment.
live chat.
Oh, live chat. Okay.
If you can do something with like Robin of Locksley in regards to the man with the most brilliant hair in all of Parliament, I would be down with that.
Yes.
I mean, it is very rhymey, but it is not very timely, and we'll be moving on now.
He'd be more like the king, and Blair would be like the sheriff of Nottingham.
Is it because Blair was a police officer? Is that the joke? Are you making fun of law enforcement now?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I
At
am.
a time like this? Okay, fair enough. Let's do more listener
Hold on.
feedback.
Let me black out my screen first, and then.
That's just your thumb.
Yeah,
Just
I
holding up your
was trying to. My thumb wasn't big enough.
Doesn't want to smudge his camera.
That's fair. Don't wreck that plastic lens. China only has so many.
Yeah.
Well, they're not ship. Are they back to shipping?
I don't know anymore, man. I stopped paying attention.
Yeah, I'm only worried when my toilet paper supply runs out, which is getting.
That's domestically produced.
Yeah, but still, that's the only time I worry.
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, Cascades makes toilet paper here in Canada, so you're all set.
Yeah, I know. I just haven't got any yet.
All right. Listener feedback. Email from Greg. I like where this one is going. Subject: the better banquet.
Ooh.
If you would like a beer better than the Old Coors Banquet, please contact your local government monopolist liquor agency and request Parallel 49 Craft Lager. Better yet, a 12-pack. It is very delicious. Otherwise, try Sleeman Honey Brown. It's a pretty good crowd pleaser. Though from my limited searching of beer, seems more expensive in Ontario, so maybe just stick to whiskey. Cheers, Greg. P.S. Fun fact from Gary Mauser paper. To use for domestic homicides, something about the facts and logic. An analysis of special requests to Statistics Canada found that between 1997 and 2012, only 2% of those accused of homicides had a firearms license, and just 6% of the firearms were registered. And he provides a link to the source data. And I would
Already
love it if we
better
could
than a
get
bunch of media outlets out there.
I would love it if we could get somebody that actually reached a wide Canadian audience, not our dozens of listeners, but like the CBC, to say something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
is this only talking about homicide with a firearm?
Yes. No. Of people who have committed homicides, 2% of them in that time period had firearms licenses.
And
Of people
6% of that 2% used a registered firearm.
I am not positive. I believe it is 6% of all firearms homicides were a registered firearm, but if you want to refer to page 126 of the attached PDF, it's a long paper.
Yeah, so
it's not that long. It's like 30 pages, but like if you want to dig through there, I believe it is 6% of firearms homicides.
well, that doesn't.
A very
That's
small
two different number. Well, it's a small number, but they're two different numbers, and it almost sounds like it should be part of the same number. Like, who cares if the firearm's registered? If the firearm,
Yeah, but I think what they're getting at is that.
Someone.
Well, I think what they're getting at is that like it's such a small number of registered firearms that are actually used in a crime, but I'm sure that like some of the crimes that they're used in are not necessarily homicides. Right?
Right. I think in this particular case, we're specifically looking at homicides.
Yeah, either way.
Find the page.
Either way, it's such a small number that are registered guns. I mean, I imagine it's mostly handguns, and not ARs or other short-barreled rifles that would be used in the commission of any of these crimes. But yeah, 6%, which is nothing.
No, it's a lot less than 30. Was it 30%?
Well, I mean, they're saying that like half are domestically sourced, which is a different thing altogether. But like, even that number was found out to be completely bogus because Basically, if they
The
can't
Toronto
determine,
police were just making things up.
They can
well, yeah,
only
if they can't determine the origin, they decide that it's locally sourced.
right.
That's like,
Domestically sourced, not necessarily locally.
yeah, and even if it's stolen from somebody that is law abiding, it's also considered domestically sourced, which is like it is, but
it's not.
yeah,
Relevant.
I would put that into a different category because it's misleading.
Yeah.
Do another one. We've got an email from Byron. The subject is listener. CPP. Just wanted to let you know that I'm a dedicated podcast listener. You can add +1 to your listeners. I'm just not able to be there live. Byron. Well, thank you, Byron. We can't actually add +1 because that's not how stats work, but I do appreciate you listening, and I do see that you download the podcast. You, specifically. I know which model of iPhone you have. I know where you live. Not really. We just... I see how many people download the podcast, and we also see how many people are listening live. So when we're commenting that there are like 8 people watching the show, I literally mean there are 8 people watching the show right now, according to YouTube. Not people that watch it later or people that download it. But I do appreciate your...
That's like in the hundreds and thousands.
Some people would say it is more than the current budget.
Yeah.
Those people would be liars.
Whatever.
Some people might say that.
We have the best metrics. Everybody knows this. They're huge.
We do.
Huge. Now, if only we could get the other podcasts to pay for it.
I would like to see if we could figure that out.
Yeah.
We need more money.
Use
also,
yes.
Instagram.
Oh, I had a suggestion for how we can get them to pay.
Does it involve
shooting
making
competition?
Our profile picture black and okay.
Oh, we can put them to shooting competition. 50% of the losers' Patreon
metrics.
goes to charity. The other 50 goes to the other podcast for a year.
I mean, I don't hate that. I could use more money.
Yeah. Well, we'll work on the back end, and then we'll officially throw a gauntlet down for something. It'll be fun.
Yeah, well, we could do this. How many people have regular panelists that have open carried in America? We would win. How many people have regular panelists that have shot out past 1,000 yards? We would win. How many podcasts produce quality content? We would win.
Yeah, and the best commercials. We do. I can see
that. Like Benny's like trying to not say anything that's going to get him in trouble with anyone else.
Yeah.
We do produce the best commercials. Go and ask Matador Arms.
Yeah.
Our commercials are the best commercials.
Yeah.
They're huge as
huge. Instagram feedback. We got a question through the gram from 5 Round Operator. If I remember correctly, Andrew has a 9mm X95. I'm curious about the reliability of that and general opinion of it. I have a 5.56 model and love it. So, I mean, I've had Tavors. Benny has had or has Tavors. Gavin, have you shot Tavors?
Yes, I had or have a Tavor.
Yes, I also have had opportunity to shoot Tavors. So I have had an opportunity to shoot both 5.56 and 9mm X95. I've had the opportunity to see a bunch of people get abused by their first. What's the actual Tavor, like the
TAR?
It's not like a Gen 1 Tavor, but like the TAR 21. Yeah,
the civilian.
So
version,
like
whatever that is.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So
the one
like,
that
I've
the
had
ATF
that shop
considers
to
a machine gun.
classes.
Yeah.
That's the one. So I've had that show up to classes. I've taught people on it. I mean, it's a bullpup. Bullpups have their whole own set of challenges, but also advantages because your overall like, what's the Tartar 21 and the 5.56 X95 is it's like an 18 or a 19-inch barrel.
18 it's like 18.6 because it has to be by law for non-restricted, but like then the gun is not much bigger than that. Like
the whole thing is like 24 inches.
Something like in that, like somewhere around that, I would say 24, 26, like basically whatever the minimum legal length is to be non-restricted, it's kind of like just over that.
Well,
It's-
can't the X95? Can't you put the IDF butt plate on it in Canada without it becoming restricted?
Like the
No
curved
idea.
one? That
No,
curved
it's the-
butt plate?
Isn't it the flat one? No, that's the whichever the people who make the fore end, but the
Yeah. You can.
Manticore.
Manticore arms.
Yeah.
So they make a more ergonomic padded butt plate, but no, the IWI came out with the IDF version of the butt plate, which is literally just like a thin slice of plastic, and that is it's a problem with a 16-inch barrel in the States because their overall length is too short. But in Canada, because we have 18.5-inch barrels, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it definitely meets the overall length requirement here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you do have a rifle in a relatively compact package. Put that in the pros
Yeah.
column, right?
Yeah.
The X95, you do have rails on the left and right at the front, and the continuous rail on the top, and the integrated flip-up iron sights. Pretty good value for
Yeah.
your money. Having
Yeah.
all of that built in, pretty decent. The ability to switch between 9mm and 5.56, also pretty decent. It's not a super difficult change. It's not an easy change because there's
Yeah.
some bushings that are kind of bullshit to install. Like they are just difficult to install and change. But
Yeah.
the process itself is not hard. There are
Yeah. It's
some-
not like
some
a quick
challenge-
change where you just like spin off a nut,
Yeah,
pull
just
the barrel
pull it off. And,
It's not a Steyr AUG.
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't break down nicely. It doesn't change over quickly. It is very difficult, I found, to switch the bushing on the barrel between the 5.56 and the 9mm barrel. It's not like technically complicated. It's just a really difficult thing to pull it apart
Yeah.
and put it back together again.
Yeah. It's not
Because of the
user
amount of
friendly.
force required. No, it's not user friendly. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
The ergonomics on a bullpup are weird. The ergonomics on the Jewish space gun of bullpups is also weird, which, I mean, that's to be
Although-
expected. It's not any...
I mean, the X95 versus the TAR-21 though fixes at least one of those. The mag.
With the mag release, yeah.
mag release. Putting it by the trigger group is the sensible
Yeah.
thing to do.
And of all the
The X-
bullpups there, like the TAR-21 and the X95 are the least ugly. Like some of the Asian made bullpups that are available, like are
Oh god, that
hideous.
Chinese, the
Yeah.
T97
Type
or whatever it
97.
is.
Yeah,
Oh,
like that
god,
thing
that
is
was such
just
a terrible.
it's ridiculous. I've shot a Korean bullpup thing that was even worse than that. Yeah, like some
Good
of the
Korea
other
or better Korea.
like yeah, South Korea.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, not good rifle at all. It was like a piece of not good.
Andrew, did you find the
So yeah, bullpups are weird.
the mag release easy, or you have to apply more force than the say an AR? Just because I can just see people say
Yes.
the trigger linkage is an issue for triggers. So does that problem apply to mag releases as well?
So I would say that the trigger, or let's deal with the magazine release. The magazine release is in a much better, much more user-friendly position on the X95 over the TAR-21. 100% hands
Yeah.
down, no question. The amount of force is required to manipulate the magazine release on the X95 to successfully release the magazine is more than an AR, but I have also tuned all of my ARs to use the least amount of movement that is needed, and the X95 is not tunable in the same way. You can't undo it one rotation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say that it is definitely easier to manipulate an AR magazine release than the Tavor mag release on the X95. The TAR-21 is
still
in a
not-
stupid spot. It's
Right.
not
Yeah.
a good, it's not convenient.
No, it's slow.
The trigger
Not hard.
linkage is, I think, the biggest downside on bullpups in general and the X95 specifically. The way that the trigger linkage works, it's like shooting a big Glock. It's just a big, mushy, heavy trigger with no real reset.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
just
I mean,
not a
it's-
good trigger.
It's also designed as a military rifle, so they are going to have a harder trigger pull in there because,
I get that,
safety.
but I mean, I can have a heavy AR-15 trigger. I can have an 8-pound
Yeah.
AR-15 trigger.
That's still
That
a
But
is,
it's
cost.
because it's because it's a
crisp and, like-
direct. There's no linkage. It's a
Right.
direct input.
There's no
yeah.
linkage, and the linkage is the part that it.
Yeah.
So the trigger is not good. The trigger is not awful, but the trigger is not good. It's a mediocre trigger. It's like a big Glock trigger. Like it's mushy and it's
Yeah.
squishy and it doesn't have a.
I mean, I can't
it
tell
has
you
a
that
reset, but it's not a good reset. It doesn't feel positive.
yeah, upgrading the trigger does make it better, but it's still. It's like upgrading
It's still kind of a crappy
your Glock.
trigger.
Well, yeah, it's like upgrading your Glock trigger, right? It's better and like miles better maybe than the OEM one, but still,
It's still not good.
yeah,
So that all said, the X95 I think is a viable rifle for a lot of purposes. I don't think the magazine changes are as fast on it. I don't think they can be because of the location of the mag well. I think you can still do a reasonable mag change.
yeah,
I think that you're going to get a big advantage with the overall length being much shorter and still having the same length barrel, so you're still getting the velocity out of the ammunition. With the 9mm kit specifically, I do have a criticism. I don't know if it's my magazines or if it's the design of the rifle, but I did have feeding problems frequently and painfully, often on the last round, but not always, of a 10-round
Colt
They're not-
magazine.
Colt magazines, but they're like Colt magazines.
Well,
I think the ones that I was running were C products, but it's like a little Colt subgun mag.
Colt the 9mm AR.
Yeah, the Colt 9mm AR mags. The ones that I had were made by Rock River. It was all right. It had feeding problems. It would regularly hang up. Like 1 out of 100 rounds, it would hang up, and you could see that the case was deformed below the seating depth of the bullet on the 9mm rounds. I never had a problem with that with 5.56. I don't know if I'm the only person that's had that problem. The internet makes me think I'm not alone, but it also makes me think it's not terribly common. I don't know if it was the ammunition. There's nothing special. It happened with factory. It happened with reload. It happened with 124 grain. It happened with 147 grain. I can't figure out why it happens, but it seems to be like once around, it just like once every 100 rounds, a round catches on the feed ramp and just gets a gouge taken out of the case, and it just hangs up. So
Yeah.
if you don't have that problem, it's probably fine. That problem specifically makes me really mad because I don't want my gun to just stop working because it.
If it
interferes
doesn't
with my
work
day.
every time, it's not. It's
yeah.
not something I necessarily want in my
Well,
safe.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like it needs to work. Like unless it's some sort of random, bizarre, catastrophic failure that you can't predict, and there's nothing you could have done to prevent it. All right, but yeah, if it's just like, oh yeah, like every 100 rounds or so, it just jams. It's like, no.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm alone in that, but I also don't think it's like a super common problem. And I have not spent the time
Yeah.
to figure out what the issue is, and I didn't call IWI to fix it. So
Yeah, I mean, I've never really shot a 9mm. I mean, my 5.56 one. I mean, and it's a TAR 21, not an X95. Before that tragic boating accident where I lost it, but I mean, it ran flawlessly. Like never an issue whatsoever.
Did it
yeah, I
have an
didn't have any issues
upgraded
in
trigger?
5.56.
Yes.
You had the trigger pack as well as trigger bow, or one, not the other.
Both.
Both. Cool.
But it's still like a
An okay
mediocre
trigger.
trigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a better okay trigger.
Is it
So,
worth the extra $200 or $300?
We'll get a time machine and we'll go back in time and you can try it, Benny. And then you can decide if you would like to get your Tavor that you also lost in a tragic boating accident.
Well, once we have the time machine.
Yeah. No, we can't change anything, Benny. We can only go back and tell you to buy a
Experience
better
it.
trigger for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wouldn't want to do that.
Let's look at a couple pieces of listener feedback that came in while we were chatting. Bane Iron Hand on the YouTube says, if you shoot something with a Chinese bullpup, do you need to shoot it again in an hour? Just wondering. I mean, My professional stance as a firearms instructor here in Canada, anything we're shooting is we're shooting twice.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think
then
the amount
once
of
again
time.
in the head.
I don't think the amount of time between those shots is really the relevant factor. If it's worth shooting,
Well, I mean-
shoot it twice.
I mean, it is if you're shooting IPSC. The time between those shots is very relevant.
Well, I mean, most shooting sports hit the paper twice, make the steel fall down. All things are good, and security rounds are our friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Go fast, don't die.
Our resident poet Cleven. I'm not sure. Sorry, bud. Isn't one of the best guns also the most hated? The AR-15. I mean, I would say it's not hated by firearms owners or AR-15 owners or the 100,000 people that have one in this country. I would say generally those people are a big fan of that platform. But yes, the anti-gun zealots generally hate the AR-15s for reasons that they cannot articulate.
Yeah, and I mean,
probably
best
because
is
it's
kind of
black and scary.
Yeah, best is kind of a relative term too, though. Like for up close and personal shooting and competitive shooting, it is one of the best. For long distance shooting, not so much.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Doesn't mean you can't do it for long distance, and long distance is kind of relative.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I have frequently shot AR-15s at 500 yards.
Yeah.
It's not a great time, but that's not the AR-15's fault. That's because I'm shooting little tiny projectiles at 500 yards. It would suck in any platform.
Are you
but the
shooting
AR-15 is
62
not.
grains, or are you shooting 55?
I was actually shooting 75 grain boat tail hollow points at 500 yards. Although this year, because of the change with what I was planning on doing at Nationals, I was planning on shooting National Service Conditions service rifle matches using a 62 grain pill, because that's the maximum weight for the division I was planning on shooting in.
Yeah. That and someone's asking, shooting 223 and a 5.56, will you get good accuracy? Maybe.
You won't get bad accuracy.
Yeah, like your 223 is going to have a little less oomph. So if you've zeroed your rifle using 5.56, and then you go and put 223 in it, it's going to be off.
Yeah, and you're going to experience pressure differences, and the throating in the barrel is different, and there's generally more space between the free bore, the unrifled part of the barrel where the bullet travels is generally longer in a 5.56 rifle. That may or may not contribute to accuracy in your particular platform.
But it shouldn't really make a big difference other than a point of impact shift. But
yeah, 223 is fine. Shoot rifle, load ammunition for rifle, find what works.
Yeah, at close distances, it shouldn't make any difference at all, really.
And even at far distances, it's probably not going to make that big of a difference because other factors are going to come into play before the...
Yeah, well, I mean, I found in my bolt gun at least, but I mean, it's a pretty short barrel. The switch is, at 100 yards, maybe an inch difference.
Yeah, so you're probably looking at a velocity change of a few hundred feet per second.
But yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's very little difference. Yeah.
So yeah, getting I was gonna say get an AR-15 and go shoot it, but I guess we can't right now.
But if you go on vacation somewhere, you can do that.
Shall we do some RCMP news?
That RCMP?
Run down some stories quickly.
Yeah.
The RCMP forcibly removes a reporter from Trudeau press conference. This is on True North News. Yes, I know we're using True North News, but it's literally not in any mainstream media. I checked. I can't find it. So, the only other place that it's being reported is The Rebel. The reporter that was removed works for The Rebel. I feel like citing the newspaper he works for is not a good...
Yeah.
Like that... I mean, it's a primary source of sorts, I suppose? But anyway, Kean Bext... went to the Rideau Cottage, went to go and ask a question. We should come back to Spudman on the YouTube in a second. Bext was basically asked to leave. He may or may not have been asked to show the pictures on his phone before or after being asked to leave. There are differing accounts of that. So I'm not really sure what actually went down, but the more important thing is an actual journalist for an actual news outlet was denied access to a press conference with the Prime Minister because of the agency that he works for.
Which I
Regardless of all
believe
the other
they've
stuff.
been
It sounds
ejected
like
from
Canada.
something previously. Maybe not him, but that I mean, the rebel has been ejected from something previously, and I believe they took them to court and won.
You remember that time that Trudeau campaigned on a fair, transparent, and open government?
Only because you
I
guys keep
remember
reminding
Yeah,
me.
but that was an election ago, so it doesn't count anymore, right?
Oh, it doesn't count. Okay.
New election, new
Well,
promise.
Yeah,
as long as we know what the rules are.
yeah.
The Albertan makes a good point. Technically, he didn't make it to the press conference. That's true. He
Yeah.
got turned around before that.
Yeah.
And may or may not. They asked him to see pictures on his phone, although I understand that he may have already been ejected or denied entry prior to that. I don't know. She said, the point is, like, they're actual journalists. Like, what we do is political commentary for entertainment that, like, masquerades as journalism. He's like an actual accredited journalist that actually reports the news.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Get your stuff together. Anyway, Spudman, we should address that. He's debating getting a 5.56 or 2.23 bolt gun.
5.56.
I would say get the 5.56 bolt gun because it's going to have a higher pressure tolerance. The
Yeah.
thing to remember is it's going to have a longer free bore, so
Why not?
be a
If you-
longer jump between where the bullet is seated and the lands. That's probably not a problem. If you're planning on ever shooting 5.56, you have to have that. If you plan on only ever shooting 2.3, there's no disadvantage to that. But I would say get the one rated for the higher pressure. Just load better.
Yeah.
Wouldn't-
I mean,
load
If he
hotter ammo.
if he hasn't purchased it yet, why not go for the 223 Wild?
well, ideally,
If you
yeah.
can get 2.3
Right.
Wild, sure, that's a great choice, I think.
Which
think
is
only-
basically
2.3 Wild is a compromise chambering.
right. So it
Yeah.
has the length of the 5.56, I think, but the tolerance is the 2.2. But it can handle 5.56, but it has all the positives of
It's-
the 2.23.
It's the best of both worlds, but I think only really ARs for the most part are chambered in that because that's where you find that problem more so. If you're dealing with bolt guns, I don't think they've really caught on to the 2.23 Wild just yet. Because
Yeah, and he's specifically talking about buying a bolt gun.
Yeah.
I would say if you're looking at a bolt gun and there's the option to get it in 5.56, I would get it in 5.56. But-
it gives you a little bit more oomph behind the projectile, and yeah, if you're worried about ammo availability, then it's not a problem. You can throw whatever in it, and it's fine.
But it's probable you may not experience the same level of accuracy because you can't jam the land. So if you're going to reload heavy bullets that are way out past like AR mag length, like 2.25 inches or whatever it is, 2.2 inches.
Yeah,
If you're trying to jam on the lands, you're probably not going to be able to jam the bullet into a 5.56 because there's just too much free bore. You just can't put the bullet out that far. So, kind of depends on what you're doing with it, but I would say in general, get
Yeah.
the 5.56 unless you're like loading crazy accurate hand loads that are not able to be mag loaded.
yeah.
And if you're doing that, you're probably not asking us for our opinion. You're probably doing.
You've
cooler
already
things
got
you
that.
should be-
Yeah, you've probably already got your own sweet bolt gun. In which case, can we go shooting with you?
Yes. I also would like to load. I would like to load 223 that is 3 inches long because I think that would be fun because it would be like a 105 grain pill. Because but anyway, reloading autism aside, more RCMP.
Yeah.
All right. Reasons why the RCMP should be disbanded. For whatever version 2, 3, 4 that we're on this week.
Yeah.
The RCMP
Reason number
is
6,384. Yeah.
disband the regiment.
The whole thing.
I do not say this thing lightly, but disband the regiment.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of
RCMP
people
facing-
calling to defund cops right now. Let's start with the RCMP.
100%. RCMP facing systemic sustainability challenges due to provincial policing role. Interprovincial memo warns that the RCMP's costly contract policing obligations across Canada are draining its resources from the force's federal duties in areas such as organized crime and national security. No kidding. There's only so many dollars in the budget.
Yeah.
So, this is like the RCMP acting as provincial police in parts of Western Canada as acting as local police in rural Canada, in the Maritimes, in Western Canada, Northern Ontario, and so on and so forth. This is all not what a national police force ought to be doing.
Get your shit together, people. Pay for your own stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, municipalities that are contracting the RCMP, provinces that are contracting the RCMP are paying for that, but that's RCMP resources that are being directed to fill those contracts rather than do other federal level policing.
But wouldn't that mean that you now have the budget to fill? If you have a budget for your federal events, and then you got to add in, you got to add an extra bit for whatever. You got to add extra bit for your provincial, for your local. You're now getting subsidies from your local. So it shouldn't,
Yeah,
it shouldn't
but
be subsidies. They should be
there's
actually
still
paying for it.
Some overhead
So
that goes along with
the-
that.
There's the
Right.
overhead, and the local stuff should pay for itself, but the RCMP can't, for whatever reason, I have a few theories, the RCMP can't hire enough people to fill all of the needs that it has, so they're putting the priority on the contract policing, which should be self-funding, although it is not, because of overhead and other things, and because they're not actually structured as a business, which again, I'm not opposed to police not being structured as a business. I think that's how it should be set up. But the contract policing should be self-funding. So if you're a municipality and you're like, we don't have a municipal police force, or we're a province and we don't have a provincial police force, we need the RCMP. Okay, so we're Alberta. We need 3,000 officers at the provincial level because that's how many provincial police we need. So that's 3,000 RCMP members that are diverted from other federal policing duties to working in Alberta. The cost of which should all be funded by the province of Alberta, right?
Yeah.
But the RCMP has such a hard time hiring and retaining people that's, again, I'm using the example of 3,000 people. I don't know how many people the RCMP employs in Alberta in a provincial role, but it's immaterial. That's human capital that they cannot direct towards their federal program, even if they could fund it, which they can't.
Right. Okay.
So, defund the RCMP. That's the takeaway. My opinion continues to be that the RCMP should not be in the business of policing. The RCMP should be disbanded.
Yeah.
They're a relic. They should be put in a museum and treated as a relic.
Yep.
Well, I just hope they don't do what they did with, or from what I've been told they did with CSIS, which was they just took the division of the RCMP that did that, changed the name, and now they're CSIS.
I mean, at the time, that is effectively how they created CSIS, yes.
So all the problems that you had with the RCMP were now just called, now they're CSIS problems. So I feel like if they were to do that, that's what would happen. So you'd still have...
Yes and no, though, because like if they just got rid of the RCMP as the whole, and obviously those officers that were performing a policing function for areas that don't have it would just become the local constabulary and start their own thing. I mean, part of the problem with the RCMP is that it's so big and there's so many layers of management that like it's just.
So you'd
and
make it more
a lot of that,
localized.
a lot of that nonsense is ingrained in the system, right?
Institutional inertia.
Yeah. I mean, like everyone right now is talking about, the institutionalized racism and stuff. Well, the RCMP has a certain amount of institutionalized incompetence that hopefully we would weed out if you make it more local, because at least the people would be policing a community that they're involved with and care about and aren't just there because it's a paying job.
Right.
And then you could maybe vote some people out if they had some sort of, elections or something.
I still
Which
think
would be nice.
sheriffing is like the way to go, like elected head of law enforcement. Not maybe individual members, but like the people in the
Yeah. Or at least
senior
like,
managerial positions.
Yeah. Or maybe even have it be that like you can only run for that position if you meet certain criteria. So it's not just like random dude that runs for it, but it needs to be like you need to elect a police chief from the people that are already in policing. We could do something like that, but at least then there'd be some accountability. Like if they're terrible, we could vote them out.
Another regimental system that makes sense to me. So the way that the militia used to work at one point was the officers of the regiment were elected from within the regiment.
That works.
The other way to get put in charge of a regiment was to donate all of the weapons and uniforms, and then you became in charge of that regiment. I'm okay with either of those models, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, if
are we
somebody wants to
taking
go and
donations?
fund all of it- yeah. Yes.
Yes, and I have the uniforms picked out. They're floral.
With short shorts, at least for summertime.
Excuse me, sir. Do you know how fast you were going?
It is that month.
Well,
I mean, it is June, but I do think that the official uniform ought to be Hawaiian shirts and short shorts.
yeah. At least for the bike.
I mean,
cops.
if the Montreal police are allowed to wear whatever mismatched weird camouflage pants they want to every time they have a labor dispute, which seems to be weekly. Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry, the Albertan. When I say the militia, I don't mean militias, which you're correct. Forming a militia in Canada, in of itself, is not illegal, but practicing military drill in Canada without being a member of the military is illegal. When I say the militia, I mean the precursor to the reserve force military earlier in our confederation. So
Yeah.
prior to the the act escapes me now. Whatever transformed the Canadian Expeditionary Force into our current military in like 1912, militia is how we refer to reserve units from like 1857 through like 1900 and something.
Yeah.
So you'll still find a lot of reserve units refer to themselves as militia, the militia, things like that. Reserve military forces, like official military. That's the militia that I mean. So when I'm like during like the Upper Canada Rebellion, if you wanted to be like the colonel of a regiment, you could literally just buy guns and uniforms for people, and they would make you the colonel because you were the guy that funded the regiment, right?
It's fair. I think we
Sorry,
should bring
that's-
that back.
I'm 100% on board with that. You can be the sheriff if you get voted in, or if you buy all the guns.
Yeah.
And police cars and handcuffs, and hey, it is that month.
Yeah. Don't forget the batons.
That's right. Get the hippie stick. I still don't think we're dealing with the Nova Scotia thing as I bash my microphone. We're still going to have to put that off. But hey, we got through some of the RCMP stuff.
Yeah, if they could stop being so incompetent, we'd be able to get through more of the material. But further proof why they just should be disbanded,
Yeah.
that we can't fit it all into one show.
The RCMP is the gift that keeps on giving. It's like the chlamydia of law enforcement.
Yeah.
Right? That's the one you can't get rid of. I'm pretty sure.
Never
Yeah.
took sex ed.
All right, let's remind everybody, sign the petitions.
Yeah.
There are 3 of them. If you don't sign all 3 of them, Iris Elbow will have relations with your wife. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my
And then she may or may not get the coronas.
So,
Whether you agree with petitions or not, at this stage, they're there. Sign it.
Yeah, it's
Well,
literally
that's
the
kind of
least
the thing.
thing
There's-
you could do.
the only thing that would be less work is doing nothing.
Yeah.
Take the 2 minutes, sign the 3 petitions. It's like a minute per petition. Click the link in your email when you get it in your email. Yes, you have to be a Canadian. Yes, you have to reside in Canada. Yes, you have to have an email address. But also, 3 of the 5 top petitions in the country, like of the 5 most signed petitions in our history, of the 5 most signed e-petitions in our history, it's important to distinguish petition versus e-petition.
Although
The
they
5
are the
most
most
signed-
signed petitions as well.
I don't believe that they are the most signed petition. I believe there is a petition, a paper petition that was signed by over 500,000 Canadians in 1943. But
Oh, there you go. Well,
Anyway.
if it didn't happen on the internet, it doesn't count.
of the e-petitions, of the top 5 signed e-petitions in the country, 3 of them are pro-firearms petitions, although they are not all these 3. So go sign these 3. The most
Yeah.
signed e-petition ever is currently open, E2574. That's the Michelle Rempel one. Go sign that. It's over 220,000 signatures. It's only 220,000 signatures. Yes, the Albertan is right. It takes longer for me to complain about it than for people to sign it. But if people would sign it, I would stop complaining
Yeah.
about it. E2576 came out the same day. This is the Todd Doherty petition. Go sign that one. And then 2582 is running along in third place with like 11,000 signatures. We really need to get that number up. That is a really atrocious number. That's the Garnet Genius signed one from Alberta. It's a democratic process one, which again I think should be signed. And the more that we make the government respond to these whenever they decide to have parliament again, the more they have to respond to these whenever they have parliament again. So like win-win. Take 3 minutes, go sign the petition, click the link. So go do that. I don't think we have anything else. Gavin, where can everybody find you on the internet?
The best place to find me on the internet is on the gram, Urbex_GTA.
Swear to God, I've closed my show notes like 6 times today and it's getting old. Benny, where can everybody find you on the internet?
BennyLewis.ca. We have stuff to sell. Come buy it.
Cool. As always, you can find me at RagnarokTactical.ca, hawking my wares, and, well, I would say teaching courses, but we still can't get anything lined up because coronavirus, man. We don't know. We can't book range time. I can't do a class with 5 people. I mean, I could, but I'd lose money, and I'm not a communist, so unless the government is going to, like, pay me to lose money...
It's a tax shelter, not a charity.
The tax shelter, not the government. Anyway. Yeah. Wow.
We can become a crown
I don't
corporation.
want to be in government, but let's just, like, bookmark that for in the future.
Yeah.
It was never my intention to be in government.
Well, you know what they say. The person qualified for the job is the one that doesn't want it.
That's literally only about government.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh. Father. We value your opinion. Send us your feedback. Send us your hate mail. Send us your comments, whatever. Cool suggestions. Which brand of Hawaiian shirt you think we should buy?
Yeah.
Feedback
Which
at
brand will
Podcast.
brand will you buy us?
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. If I put out an Amazon wish list with my top 5 Hawaiian shirts, will someone buy me one? That's something to look into for later.
And I know we have at least one listener that's going to like this request. What should the inseam of the shorts that we wear be? 2.5 inches, 4 inches, or 6.5 inches?
Somebody's going to screen cap that. I'm throwing up gang signs. I'm never getting employed ever again. 4. The correct length of short shorts is 4 inches.
I don't have anything that I can add to that to make it any better. So I'll just...
Well, I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. I am wearing my short shorts, and he did not want to compete. His short shorts were not short enough.
I agree with the Albertan.
I mean, I'm also a big fan of pants. I am not a person who frequently wears shorts. Shorts are for exercising, and that's really about it. But I did go for a run today, and it did suck. But I did wear my running shorts, and they are short. But the Albertan is right. The correct length of things that go on your legs is pants.
I don't know, man. Skies out, thighs out, man.
Guns out, guns out, work those buns out.
Yeah.
It is that month.
Yeah.
For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I would like to remind you that you are the true North. Strong and free.